Growing up, all my siblings they're older than me, so I would go hang out with them, and after my dad passed away, most of them stopped going to church. We would have barbecues and stuff like that, and we would go and hang out with them, and they would have alcohol, and so that I started drinking with them. But later on, when I was about 16 years old, I met this guy that started going to our church. He would invite me and some other friends to his house, and all of a sudden drugs came into the picture. Drugs changed the way I was with my family at church. I would go to church, but I knew that it was more like a routine kind of thing, because I didn't really have a relationship with God. So that's how it was major, because I felt that I no longer really cared about church or God. But the most major drug that I did was ecstasy. I started smoking marijuana and drinking. I had a dream. In this dream, I was with my friends that were a part of the gang, and we were going to go shoot someone, but I ended up getting shot in the head. I felt really affected by this dream. At that point, I stopped everything, and I decided to really start living for God. Around the time where I decided to start being straight with God, my brother-in-law and my sister had said that, you know, they went to this church, and this church ended up being CT. I could feel the presence of God, and I've never felt it the way I did when I first came. So that was when God was introduced to me for real this time.
I would always see, you know, three spirits just kind of hovering or, you know, hiding. As I grew up, it would intensify. I had a breakdown around 16, and I remember, you know, I started just having, you know, suicidal thoughts. And I remember perfectly, you know, just I couldn't take it anymore. You know, I didn't feel loved. I felt neglected. I felt like, you know, nothing made sense. I felt worthless, just, you know, just scrawny, just like nothing, you know. And I remember running downstairs and you know, just crying. I saw my sister, I saw my mom, I saw my dad, and you know, I went into the kitchen. I grabbed one of the biggest knives, and I went for it. But you know, luckily, you know, my parents, you know, they pushed me away, and you know, nothing happened. But you know, I was getting aggressive that I just really wanted to just end it. And you know, they took me to, like, you know, mental institute, you know, and you know, I wasn't crazy. I was just going through a lot of stuff. You know, people in there they were crazy. So you know, I was there about like a month and a half, and you know, nothing was wrong with me. Like at 17, 18, that's when I really started just messing up. You know, I kind of backslid. You know, I kind of just left church. That's when I started, you know, meeting friends that would drink, and I would go with them. I started smoking cigarettes. You know, just started, you know, drinking a little bit with them, and you know, it was getting a little out of control. You know, I started leaving school. I didn't, you know, my grades were dropping. And until my friend Matthew, you know, passed away, I think, because I was losing it. You know, at 18, I was just like not doing good at all, man. I was struggling, and it was through his passing that just kind of, you know, I heard the voice again, and I heard, son, you know, it's time for you. I'm calling you. And you know, I think that was my breaking, you know, through point, that, you know, I left everything, and you know, I came back to church, and you know, I started doing good, you know, better in my school. You know, I started, you know, caring about things.
As a kid, I had a lot of aggression, a lot of anger. As I grew older, all this anger bottled up in me because lack of father, lack of a mother, drove me to eventually smoking drugs. Smoking pot, marijuana, was my biggest struggle. I remember one time drinking, I think, over 50 pills, hoping that I would die, and I just threw it all up. Things began to escalate because I started being influenced by other people, and people that were involved in stabbing people, killing people, shooting people, drive-bys. Our friends were going to prison for stabbing people, and I started becoming a part of that. I got introduced to God through someone that was my mother's friend, someone that would witness in the apartment complex. And she invited me to a small group, to a life group. And I went. I struggled with it because I grew up Catholic, so I felt, something inside of me felt like I was betraying my religion. But my life changed a while later when I let God in my life. I knelt down, I repented, and got the Holy Ghost. And I got baptized that same day. He had showed me his power and how real he was.